So you wake up in the middle of the night with your heart racing. What could that be? Well, the first thing you want to do is differentiate between, is your heart rate really increasing or do you have palpitations? Because they can feel very similar. And so ideally, you'd want to check your pulse to see if your pulse rate is higher. Tachycardia is a medical name for high pulse rate, over 100 beats per minute. The normal beats per minute should be around 72, but it could be actually a lot lower if you're in shape, or it could be slightly higher. Or a palpitation is a little bit different. It's not necessarily a sustained high pulse rate. The heart is flipping or flopping or speeding up temporarily or slowing down temporarily. But I do have videos on palpitation, slightly different than this. I put a link down below. But we want to talk about if you're all of a sudden waking up in the middle of the night with a high pulse rate, what's going on? Let's take a look at all the potential causes of tachycardia. Well, alcohol will do it. Too much sugar will do it because sugar depletes potassium. Potassium is kind of like a governor or a regulator of your pulse rate. And so without potassium, you don't have the brakes in the car, so it's all accelerator. So the pulse rate will go up. In fact, I remember right before I got married, we were living in San Diego, and we were going around trying to find the best wedding cake. And so we were going to different places sampling wedding cakes. And then we ended up at an Italian restaurant and had pizza and pasta and wine. And right before their closing, I realized we were the last people left. And so the waiter said, would you like to sample some of these desserts before we toss them out? And of course, I don't want to waste any food, so we sampled everything. And so I was driving home that night with a tremendous amount of carbohydrates flowing through my bloodstream. And right when I went to bed, I noticed this large pounding in my ear. It's like boom, 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 boom. My pulse rate was not only accelerated, but it was loud. What was happening in my blood was all this sugar was depleting the potassium that I had. And so there's nothing left to keep the pulse rate under control. So too much sugar will deplete potassium and your pulse rate will go up and you will not be able to sleep. Also, just having low potassium in general can increase the pulse rate. Low magnesium can increase the pulse rate. And if you are B1 deficient, which by the way is very, very common, your pulse rate will be a little bit too high. So you'd want to take some nutritional yeast to get that B1 and your pulse rate should come down. Stimulants like caffeine from coffee, also chocolate and tea will keep the pulse rate too high. An overactive thyroid will keep your pulse rate high. I did a video on this, and one of the remedies is actually taking B1. Anemia can keep your pulse rate high. So that would be a lack of B12 or a lack of iron. Number 9, this is called dysautonomia. This is a dysfunctional autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system controls the pulse rate, your heart rate, and a lot of other things. And too much stress will cause dysfunction of your autonomic nervous system. The best remedy for that would be right here, B1. Another symptom of dysautonomia would be if you were to stand up too quickly and feel a little dizzy or disoriented. All right, number 10, excessive amount of exercise. This happened to me when I worked out twice in a given day, and I just got my pulse rate up too high, and it just did not come down too well. So if your recovery is low or you overdo it, your pulse rate could be too high. Being too acid. Here's another example. One day I drank some kombucha tea. I didn't just drink a little bit. I drank the whole bottle, which actually switched my pH to being slightly too acidic. And my pulse rate was just way too high, and I couldn't sleep that night. So too much acid will increase your pulse rate, and it affects your breathing as well. All right, number 12, if your blood sugars are too high or too low, your pulse rate can go too high. And so if you have any of these, obviously it's pretty self-explanatory what you need to do. There are some other things you can do if you catch yourself in the middle of the night with your pulse rate high and you need to go back to sleep. This is what I would recommend. There's a simple breathing exercise where you just control your breathing in and out very slowly at a count of 4 to 5 seconds in and 4 to 5 seconds out. And so as you're controlling your breath slowly in and slowly out, that will actually start to affect your autonomic nervous system and your pulse rate should come down. So it's something that you can do to help you control the heart. All right, number 2, celery. Maybe you need to get out of bed and just consume some celery. Celery has all sorts of great, wonderful things, phytonutrients, certain types of minerals that are really calming to the nervous system, as well as the blood pressure. And I think the number 1 cause of a higher pulse rate, especially something that's waking you up out of bed, would be that your carbs are just too high. So you want to go low carb, and you want to go no sugar. Now, when you initially get on a ketogenic plan, you may find your pulse rate goes up when you're in this transition phase for about 3 days. But if you just take potassium and a good electrolyte powder, and you take vitamin B1 through nutritional yeast, that should pretty much prevent that from happening. So stress can actually raise your pulse rate. So during the day, you want to do long walks to keep the stress off your body as much as possible. I do walking every single day. I think yesterday I walked for an hour. It's very therapeutic. Get in nature and just do the walks. That's very good for the heart. And the last thing is to avoid EMF. I will be doing more videos on this, but these are certain frequencies or energies that emanate from your cell phone, electrical wires. So if you're sleeping and your cell phone or iPad is right next to you, right by your head, or you have a lot of electrical devices plugged in, unplug them before you go to bed. Put your cell phone on airplane mode, and you're going to find that you'll have less EMF. What you have to realize is that these frequencies have a serious influence over your own frequencies. You have a lot of electrical things going on in the heart and different fields of energy, and so you want to keep these to a minimum. All right, guys, there you have it. Now you know exactly what to do. Before you go, if you have a question about a product, or you're new to keto and you want to know how to begin keto, or you're on keto and you need a debug because it's not going as smooth, I have a keto consultant standing by to help you. This is just for the people in the US. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to answer everyone's call, but I put the number down below so you can call and get some help.